people may see me or listen to me and say, wow, what is she doing here on this podcast? But Nick knows a big part of my story. And a huge part of it is I was born diagnosed with certain autoimmune illnesses. So I live with invisible illness. I am in that population where my disabilities are not seen. There was a time years ago when I was so sick where I needed a cane for a good year. There were times in my life where I was critical, times I almost went into hospice. I've had 3 documented near-death experiences, and that's from living with Crohn's disease, also being born with a very rare liver condition and having something that's called primary sclerosing cholangitis.
This episode is sponsored by Atopic AI for Opportunity. Atopic is an AI-powered opportunity discovery platform, and the best word that I can describe it is ChatGPT, but instead of giving you information, it gives you real people you should be connecting with. Whether you're looking for clients, partners, investors, job prospects, or high intent leads, Atopic makes it simple. You just type what you're looking for, and the AI thinks through thousands of signals, and then surfaces verified prospects with context, not random lists. It even helps you follow up, nurture conversations, and track your pipeline. What I love about Atopic, and why I'm excited to have them as a sponsor, is that they're solving the biggest problem in business growth: finding the right people at the right time. If you haven't yet, go to atopic.com and try it. It's one of the smartest tools out there for people trying to grow their business. Alright everyone, today we have Alethea Felton, and I can't wait for her to share her story. It's going to be awesome. So, let's jump right into it. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
In terms of personally or what I do professionally?
Let's start with personally. I always like to tell your story so people can kind of get to know you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I am Alethea Felton, and I would first say that I am a person that loves the oceans and loves water. I grew up by the ocean on the East Coast in the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, Tidewater area. So I absolutely love all things ocean life and water. I have this fascination, this quirky fascination with mermaids and that which is fantastical. I am an eternal optimist who is always seeing the brighter side of things in life, even when things get challenging. I enjoy the outdoors. I love nature. I love tracing family history and traveling and cooking. So those are some hobbies of mine, but I have always been the type of a person who can see the good even in the most dire of situations. And I'm a cat mom to a 5-year-old tabby cat named Buddy, who's a cuddly, clingy, snuggly cat. I'm also a daughter. I'm a sister. I am a significant other / girlfriend to a wonderful man. I am a cousin. I'm a friend. And I wear so many different hats in my life. But that's a bit about who I am. And I'm the youngest of my siblings, and so I can also be a jokester. I can be serious in my professional life, but in my private and personal life, people tell me that I'm funny, and Nick, I'm not even trying to be. That's just me, but everybody says you are hilarious. I don't see it, but everybody else does.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, I love what you're about. I love being on the water. I grew up on the lakes every weekend. I love going to the ocean. I also have cats, and yeah, I love my cats so much.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about what you do professionally.
So professionally, let me backtrack a little bit. What I did for many years, up until about 2.5 years ago, I was a public school educator in terms of my 9 to 5. And I use the term educator because I was just not a classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I did classroom teaching. I taught Spanish. Primarily, I taught English on the secondary level, so that's middle and high school. And then after I taught, I transitioned into school leadership. So I was on instructional leadership teams, leading teachers, and improving students in terms of their behaviors and their assessments and scores. And I ended
Mm-hmm.
my full time 9 to 5 career in human resources, where I was also supporting teachers. I worked for some major school systems in the Washington, D.C. area. I lived full time in D.C. for over 20 years. And so I worked in Maryland as well as Washington, D.C. Furthermore, I would also dare to say that I have transitioned into full time entrepreneurship within the last couple of years, where I am now a person who helps leaders master resilience and transform setbacks into unstoppable breakthroughs. And the
Mm.
way, Nick, that I do that is I do that through having my own leadership community. I also, and that's called Resilient Leaders Alliance. I also am a podcaster. I have a top 3% ranked podcast called The Power Transformation Podcast. Furthermore, I do AI consulting and also digital products for entrepreneurs and busy professionals to help them get to that next level. And more importantly, what I love to do, I'm a global speaker and also an author who speaks about going through breakthroughs, transformation, and resiliency. So that is what I do professionally.
That's amazing. And
Thank you.
I didn't know you had your background as an educator, but you know you're kind of still educating. But what made you want to take the jump and be an entrepreneur yourself?
I was always an entrepreneur, even when I taught.
Mm.
So I'm 44, and I first got into this world of entrepreneurship when I was 21. And it started off as catering. I did part-time catering while I was teaching. I went to the culinary school and everything. So I've always been a nerd. I've always loved learning. So I've been cooking since I was 8 years old, started to bake when I was 11. And I needed to get my Serve Safe certification, which is a food handler's license if I wanted to actually cater. So I
Mm-hmm.
could have just taken the, Serve Safe course, but instead I said, no, I want to go to culinary school. I was always excellent at cooking, but I had a passion for baking and pastry. So I decided to go into culinary school for culinary arts with an emphasis in baking and pastry. And so that's what I went to culinary school for. Also got my Serve Safe certification along the way, and I started catering. So I did that for about a good decade or so, maybe eight years, probably, maybe not a full 10 years. And then in my 30s, I transitioned due to a health challenge. I transitioned into holistic health coaching in my 30s, also became a certified life coach, and I did network marketing for a wellness company as well. And so the entrepreneurial spirit was always inside of me. So even when I was
Yep.
working in education, I still was an entrepreneur, just part-time. So the pivot into the full-time realm, everybody has different spiritual viewpoints. But with me, I knew about a year and a half prior to me transitioning into full-time entrepreneurship, I'm very keen to when God is speaking to me, and God was telling me literally, and for a person that might not have my faith, what that is to me is there have been occasionally audibly, I have heard a voice, which is very rare, but most of the time it's this deep down feeling inside of my gut. Some people call it intuition. I call it Holy Spirit, where God was speaking to me clearly, telling me that I needed to prepare to transition out of education. I had intended, because I started teaching at 21, I intended to have a full career. The parts of the country where I worked paid very well, way above the norm of, you know, educators in our country. And so financially, it was very, very lucrative, well over six figures. I had investments, savings, all of that over the years, a great pension. And so logically, Nick, it didn't make sense to leave my career. But
Yeah.
whenever I know God is speaking to me about something, I obey. And I take the plunge and I obey. I take the risk. And as entrepreneurs, we take risks all of the time. I ignored it at first. But what happened was, for about a 2-week period, Nick, where I ignored that voice telling me to start a transition, I couldn't sleep. I was literally tossing and turning. I was exhausted. And until I surrendered, that's when I had the peace. So let me make it clear, though. I never want to mislead people. I was told to prepare for it, and I would know the right way. So I didn't just go to work one day and say I quit. I made strategic moves to be prepared financially for X amount of years to be able to pivot into this realm. So that's why I decided to do the full-time route. If it were up to me, I wouldn't have, but I would rather take the chance and listen to what I call God, that voice inside of me to say, do it. And that is the reality of what happened. Because if not, Nick, I would have continued moving up the ranks. It shocked everybody. And maybe this can be a lesson for someone listening or watching. I transitioned from my career when I still loved it. We hear stories in our country about nightmare experiences of teachers and educators, and the schools are this and the schools are that everywhere. It's in small town America and in urban. But I can tell you honestly, Nick, I loved my career. I loved the effect I was having on people and the personalities I met. And so logically, I wouldn't have made that choice, but I chose to follow what I knew I had to do. And the rest is history.
That's awesome. And I do gotta say, look, it is good when you do take the leap and go all in on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I worked a job for many years while I was building my business, and once I left the job, that's when real growth started to happen. Not
Yeah.
only for my business, but myself too. You know, I will say I did not like the job that I had for the last 3 years of my career. So it was definitely nice to get out, and I'm much happier now. And you know, I can take care of my clients a lot better now, and I have more time for everyone. So
Yes.
yeah, but you know, I love that you listen to God, because I get the same things here and there. It's like you get this feeling like I gotta do something, so you just gotta do it. You know, whether you're scared or not, just
Exactly.
take the leap.
Do it scared. Yeah.
Yep.
Do it scared. And just out of my own curiosity, what particular industry were you in, Nick, prior to you transitioning?
Yeah, so I was in the waste removal industry. So
Okay.
I actually drove a garbage truck just like that.
Oh,
So that's what I
wow.
did. I started in the waste removal industry when I was 14 years old. A
Wow.
few years later, my dad started his own company. So we did that for 10 years, and I went to another company and then another one. And then now I can finally say that I retired from the waste removal industry.
Wow. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you did, and that you're doing something that you love and you're passionate about. So
Yeah,
that's
me
what
too.
really
Me too.
matters. Yeah.
Yeah. And doing that job, with me having cerebral palsy. I have a bad back, and those trucks are very rough. They don't ride good, and it was just taking a toll on my body. So I had to get out. And I'm so
Exactly.
glad I did, because like for the first time in my life, I don't have back pain every day. It still hurts here and there, but I think that's more from age than anything. So
Yeah.
But and I also gotta say, I love that you were a holistic health coach. I have a holistic health coach myself, and that has helped my disability so much. And just the way I feel, my body, like it's incredible. And I will say, I'm not perfect yet, because I love pizza. I just can't get away from it. But
I'm not perfect either.
yeah,
None of us are. And
no.
with that type of training, I went to the largest health coaching school in the world, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and we tend to go by the 80-20 type of a rule. And the 80-20
Yep.
rule is pretty much 80% clean eating,
Mm-hmm.
leaving that room for that 20% of maybe the not so perfect. And a lot of things that are about moderation, and it's about it's not a one size fits all approach. So
Mm-hmm.
even with your pizza, I'm sure you've learned how to eat it in moderation. You know
Yeah.
when to pause it. I don't tell people to deprive themselves of anything,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's not extremely harmful to you. Now, if you're eating pizza every single day of the week and it's more than one slice at each sitting,
Yeah.
then that's a problem. But if
Yeah.
you eat it in moderation and you know your limits, that's
Mm-hmm.
totally okay. And I mean, hey, who doesn't love a great slice of pizza? I
I
love
know
pizza.
it's the
I
best thing
do
ever.
love pizza. It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. But yeah, so I love what you're doing. I love what you're about. And for the people listening, how can they work with you?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So you
Yeah.
can work with me in several ways. So I'm on the social media platforms of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm also on TikTok. I need to get better with TikTok. I'm building traction on TikTok, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm there. I also have a website that I am revamping to make it a bit more jazzier and snazzier, and that is www.aletheafelton.com. And my email address is coach, at Alethea Felton, ALETHEAFELTON.com. And of course, my podcast, The Power Transformation Podcast, is on all audio platforms. I am transitioning at some point in 2026 to also have it on video. But those are the ways that you can connect with me. A lot of great happenings are going on in 2026. And when we are doing this, it is December of 2025. And we as entrepreneurs know that the work we are doing now is
Mm-hmm.
definitely planning ahead for the upcoming year. Our work never stops.
No,
But that's how people can connect with me.
awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Of
And
course.
then I gotta ask you, so my slogan is your abilities are infinite. What does it mean to you?
Wow, your abilities are infinite. So let me just briefly explain this to your audience. People may see me or listen to me and say, wow, what is she doing here on this podcast? But Nick knows a big part of my story. And a huge part of it is I was born diagnosed with certain autoimmune illnesses. So I live with invisible illness. I am in that population where my disabilities are not seen. So although I have a handicap placard and I use it as needed now, but there was a time when I was dependent on it. There was a time years ago when I was so sick where I needed a cane for a good year. There were times in my life where I was critical, times I almost went into hospice. I've had 3 documented near-death experiences, and that's from living with Crohn's disease, which affects the gastrointestinal system, and also being born with a very rare liver condition, and having something that's called primary sclerosing cholangitis, which is the gradual hardening of the bile ducts, leads to cirrhosis of the liver. Many people with PSC have to get a transplant, some don't. So when I think about abilities being infinite, I do not have any problem with the word disability. It doesn't make me less than, but I think that abilities are where I am capable of, what I am capable of doing at my capacity and my strength. I don't have self-imposed limitations. Now, am I gifted to mountain climb and go all the way up to the peak of the highest mountain in the world? No, that's not my gifting. That's not my ability. I'm not interested in it. So my abilities being infinite is that I have the ability, I am capable of exceeding statistics. I am capable of beating the odds. I am capable of being more than the labels that society or others put on me to say that I can't do based on a diagnosis. So my abilities are infinite because I know wholeheartedly, Nick, that we are spiritual beings living a physical experience. And with that spirit inside of us, we are capable of transforming lives and transforming the world. I believe this with everything. So that slogan really resonates with me, in that whatever, just not about me, but for those of you listening or watching, is that limitations are of the mind. If there's a goal that you desire to do, who the heck says you can't do it? I literally follow, I can't think of his name, but I literally follow somebody on social media who does not have arms or legs, yet they have won awards, they are married, they have kids, they speak globally, they've done things, no arms or legs. I think about the late Helen Keller, who couldn't speak, who couldn't hear or see, yet she taught, she wrote books. My thing is, when we limit ourselves or we let people's lies or perceptions of us affect us, then we become less than who we were created to be. So with my abilities being infinite, meaning that it's not that the sky is the limit. No, beyond the sky, there are no limits based on your capability. And when you start to understand what you're capable of, your skill set, your giftings, then a world opens, Nick, to so many opportunities, and you can live a life that is fulfilled. You can live a life that is purposeful and meaningful. And don't get me wrong, I say this on a lot of interviews that I'm in. Some people may hear me and say, wow, everything's happy, happy, joy, joy, positive. This isn't toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is when a person does not acknowledge the reality of something. They ignore or gloss over the hurt or the pain or the tough times. That's not who I am. There were many of nights, many of days where I cried. Many of times I was angry. Many of times when I didn't know if life was worth moving forward or going on. So I don't want to make anybody misunderstand that, but I recognized it. I got the therapy, the support, the help. Although I love God, I needed a therapist too. So I still did what I had to do for myself. And so I don't want you, listener or viewer, to misunderstand me by any means. I recognize the trauma. I recognize the hurt. I see those unspoken parts of you. But what I'm saying is that you can follow the example, if you're not already, of people like Nick and me, who we aren't oblivious to the reality of our conditions, but we do not allow those to define us. It's a part of who we are, but it's not our entire being. And that is why my abilities are infinite.
Amen. Wow. You just spoke everything that I'm all about. Like, to the T, everything that I care about, everything that I talk about and preach on social media. Like, you just took like 500 of my short videos and put it into one. It was pretty cool. That was awesome.
Serious. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean this, Nick, because there was a time in my life, my last hospitalization was August of 2019. And there was a time, Nick, where it seemed like every other year or even every year, I was hospitalized on short-term disability. And people are probably like, you were still working a full-time job? Yes, I was, because I was protected by ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, but I also had compassionate supervisors. And that was really a gift. I had people who really understood. Plus, I worked hard. I was excellent at what I did. And I don't say that braggingly, but I still, every time I would come out of a short-term disability, Nick, I was getting this award and that award, national board certification, doing this, not including things outside of work I was doing. I was still having my business. I was still singing on my church's praise team. I was still taking missions trips around the world as I could. I was still in an active organization outside of church. I still lived. I lived my life. And that's where people were baffled. Yes, I rested when I needed to. Yes, I know what it's like to be on complete bed rest for an entire summer and can only look outside of my window when everybody else I know are having a great time at cookouts or the pool or the beach, and I can't go anywhere. And to be in my bed crying and sad and being mad at God. I've been there. But at the end of the day, I always had this vision of myself as whole, healed. I don't know how my life's going to turn out. I don't know when I will draw my last breath. But I'll tell you what, some doctors said I wouldn't live to see 30 and I'm 44 because they aren't in control of that. Only God's in control. So with the time any of us have, I choose joy, and joy does not equal happiness. I'm not always happy, but I have contentment and I have joy and I have peace. And that's what I'm saying. Anybody is capable of that. This just isn't me saying these words, Nick, to get people to like me. No, this is to give people hope, because there's too many people, especially those of us living with disabilities, that can feel hopeless, that can feel as if there's no end in sight. And I'm telling you, life doesn't have to be miserable. We can make the best out of it.
Yes, we can. Every day get up and just live the best life that you can. Because, well, like you said, you never know when you're going to take your last breath. So, enjoy it.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Alethea, this was so awesome. You are amazing. I love you. Thank you for being on here. And I have a feeling we're going to have to do this again next year, because this was so inspiring and helpful to so many people. I know that this is just awesome.
Yes, and you are going to be on my show also, because you definitely have a journey and a story, so I appreciate you too.
Thank you. That would be awesome. I can't wait.
Yes.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you, Nick.
If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me here, the Nick Heart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.